It's like noticing you have to cut your nails again. Like, this is never going to stop. I'm going to keep producing these like this accretion that will require maintenance. Uh, so I thought today I would talk about getting hit in the head really hard after having hit my head hard a bunch of other times without really noticing that was what was happening, and my head was getting hit. Um, didn't really. I mean, I got in fights when I was a kid, but they weren't really bad head trauma fights. Kids weren't kicking each other's skulls in when I was a kid, or where I was a kid. Mm. But motorcycle accidents piled up. I'd been in like 4 of those, more or less, and a couple of them I had hit my head on the ground or on a car, and then there was a period a few years ago. I should know this if I'm going to tell the story, but 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, there was a period when a bunch of just rotten shit happened to me all at once. I was mugged with you know, a guy with a gun like took my phone and like $10 in my backpack, but then they gave it back because I was like was like following down the guys down the street that had robbed me, just like kind of, you know, be like, hey guys, come on, like my stuff sucks. Look, you can feel there's no computer in there. It's just my notebook. My phone sucks. I won't call the cops. Like, and the kid with the gun ran back my stuff and gave it to me. Gave me my backpack and even my little crumpled up $10 bill and my phone. He's like, don't call the cops. I won't call the cops. That was the nicest thing that happened to me that month. I forget one of the like. There's always these calamities. These like sequences of calamities, and I always like forget some of them. But then after that, I got beat up by these guys, or not completely beat up. I don't know. Maybe that's me not wanting to like admit defeat, but they threw a bottle at my head when I was walking home from Bart, and it cracked into the side of my head, and my memory's all messed up around that moment before and a little after, but I sort of came to while like scuffling with a guy, and as I came to, I sort of was able to get my base and sort of, you know, I would have thrown him probably, but he backed off, and I was still kind of dazed, and my glasses had fallen off, and he picked up my glasses and handed them back to me, and there were 2 other guys with him that had been piled on me, I believe. It's hard to say what actually happened. It's a weird story though, so that yeah, that's what they did. I don't know who they were. I have the vaguest images of them that I remember, and it doesn't matter. For whatever reason, they threw a bottle at my head and then sort of scuffled with me for a minute and then let me go, and didn't rob me or anything like that. But as I was, like, the thing I remember before getting hit in the head was there was an old woman, and her tire was like, her car was broken down, her tire was popped, and it was like obviously like a blown out tire, and I said I would help her out fixing her tire, and then I, you know, the bottle bounced off my head and broke on the ground, or like bounced off the ground, and then when I got away from the guys, I said to the lady that I would come right back and help her with her car, and I did. Like, I walked home, threw my stuff in my house, and I got in my car and drove, and there was like blood coming down from the side of my head, and I was real dizzy, and I drove back to the lady and tried to change her tire. I used my jack from my car to lift hers up, took her tire off with my tire iron, and tried to put mine on, but it wouldn't go because I had like a Volvo spare tire for her like Toyota or whatever, and I was in a daze, and so I couldn't fix it, and the lady started yelling at me. She was upset that I was like incompetently changing her tire, and She said, like, I don't care if you're hurt. She's being so mean, this mean lady. And I was, you know, in this weird mindset after getting hit. And I said, follow me in my car and we'll go to this tire place up the street that I'd been to before. So I drove real slow and she drove real slow because her tire was blown out. She was like, obviously was living in the car and was really nervous about her car having a blown out tire when it was so important to her. I understood what was going on in a weird way. Or later looking back when I was like, why was that lady so mean? She was really stressed out. But she followed me to the tire place at West Oakland Tire Place. It's not open anymore, and her car broke down right as we pulled up to the place. And I was like, "Fuck, I'm sorry." It wouldn't start up again. So I ran over to the gate. They were closing the place, and through the gate, I told the guy, like, "Hey, there's a lady over there. The car is broken down. Can you please give her a tire tomorrow? Here's my debit card. Just charge me $40, and whatever tire and service you can give her for $40. Please help her out." I knew they had cheap tires there, cheap used tires, and they'll figure something out for $40. Sure. Later, I talked to the guy and I was like, "What happened with that lady?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, you man." He said, "I'll give you a free oil change for that. That was nice," which is cool of him. I never claimed it, but he said that that he had gotten her car running again. He'd gotten it to start. He put the tire on, and she had told him when she left, "Tell that guy who bought my tire, thank you." So hey, it's a success. But then I left her and I was driving back to my house, or I left the tire place and her, and I was planning on going to work, and I still was like, had dried blood all crusty on my head, and like a big lump had come out where the bottle hit me, and uh, I was in a weird trance, and I got to my apartment, and I was coming down the little alleyway beside my building to come to my door, and Baraka was there. And because I didn't know that I'd been texting people nonsense, I'd been like texting like gibberish to people when I was sort of out of it, and and then as soon as I saw Baraka, I started crying, and I came into my house and I sat against the wall on the floor and just cried really hard, and Baraka called my job for me and told them that I couldn't come in because I got attacked because I told them what happened as much as I could, and then that it changed my personality uh, permanently in some ways because I am now who I am because of who I was for that year and a half after. I've like emerged from that and I've maybe gotten recovered in some ways, but also I'm different than I ever was, and I'm glad in a lot of ways, and I'm also like disappointed that I'm not more different. I thought it was like not a humbling experience, but I was lucky because it could have been otherwise. It could have been bad, but uh, I could sort of still see who I would have been if I didn't get hit. There was this weird parallel version of me. I felt like I was overlapped with myself, and I could see, like, I would have my reaction to things, but there would be this echo of what my reaction would have been if I'd never gotten hit. This sort of ghost version of me that wasn't there because I did get hit. Hard to explain, but and then I started to have weird little fritzes where, like, I don't know, and I was very emotional for a while. For like weeks, I was like crying and just crying like crazy. Um, and it messed with my memory and my thoughts, and I definitely like fritz out still, even to this day, but not nearly as much as I did for a while there when I get really emotional. I guess. But getting hit in the head, that was like part of this like series of. Is that what I wanted to talk about? Was getting hit in the head. It was part of the series of calamities, and just being in that place where I got hit, that corner. I had to walk past it every day when I went to school. And a few days later, I saw a woman in the parking lot right next to where I'd gotten hit with a bottle, who was like in serious distress. And I was just always seeing people in distress in that area and on the public transit everywhere, and in cities, every city, and all over there are people in distress, and it just started to build like it's actually insane that there are people who are suffering so much on the streets in front of you every day, and you know the only survivable way to like deal with it is to kind of just walk past. What you should do is the first time you see somebody in crisis on the street, you should stop and help them until they're well. You're the first person you see, you help them until they're well, and then you go on, and then the next block, when you see another person in crisis, you help them until they're well. That's what you should be doing, perhaps. But no, you don't, and it's crazy to see people suffering so much. Um, I mean, it's worse to be suffering. It's worse to be the person who's suffering, but that you're going to suffer too. And in fact, sometimes I'm the guy crying on the train. I'm not usually the woman who's naked on drugs and you know chewing her own tongue. Um, but it started to, I don't know, and it's never really stopped. Oddly, like the lockdown gave me a bit of distance from like certain other contemporary realities. Um, anyway, I got hit in the head. I'm different now. I'd been hit in the head a bunch before. I don't think it was just the one. I think it was having it happen a bunch of times. Yeah. Baraka called my job and called me out, and Sarah came home because I was texting everybody weird shit, and somebody. Then she knew that I got attacked. My mouth is dry. Sarah came home and then got me and her a lift to the hospital, and they gave me like a PET scan or whatever, and said I had a concussion, big old lump on my head and everything. But from what the research that I did later, it was whatever they call a TBI or traumatic brain injury, but not super serious, I suppose. But I had a lot of the light sensitivity, and the crying. I found out was actually a symptom of traumatic brain injury. So that's a part of my experience. There are other things I wanted to maybe get to, like stuff that I kind of learned from it, and part of what helped me get through it was um, movement practices that I had found a bit before that, but then they helped pull me through it. Buto, it's more or less contemporary. It's like started in the 60s, I guess. Japanese, like it's a modern Japanese expressive dance theater, and there's and it's somatic, so it's within the body. It's like the feelings that come from these poems and these prompts and these exercises that sort of build the choreography. There's like a language of choreography built by these guys, Hijikata and Ono, Kazuo Ono. But anyway, and there's another practice called authentic movement, which is just a sort of a movement meditation. And those practices help me get through the brain injury, help me have a way to explore and like reacquaint myself with my brain body connection, and my interior world, for lack of a better term. That's kind of hackneyed, but honestly, it did start to feel like I became a bigger, like I could go within myself, and it was like a place with rooms and paths, and I could live there and move around in it and spend a lot of time there finding things and finding whatever I needed, in different situations. If I needed inspiration, I could go inside in this Buto original body, this sort of natural, sort of stacked neutral posture, or the sort of authentic movement trance that happens to me, and so Anyway, those things helped get through the brain injury. I don't know what I wanted to talk about when I started this. I'm tired. I'm very tired. I had a weird day. Whoever you are watching this, friends, strangers, this is my weird kitchen room.